the structure of the hydrogen atom, which is increasing, developing more and more from its most primitive state, gains as much as motion, power, and efficacy. And spirits connected to these, as they adapt to these motions which are increasingly enriched and powered, evolve. Factors that awoke all these motions in matter are influences arriving from original sources. This is because influences render their functions by evoking motions in matter. In short, the original influences which constitute hydrogen atoms in accordance with the necessities they carry, by continuously collecting parts from surroundings, develop the hydrogen atom up to a higher realm. Naturally, by its development, the energies of the hydrogen atom will radiate and increase, growing stronger accordingly, and as the hydrogen atom develops it starts to diffuse higher and more complex energies, that is, more developed particles. However, all of these constitute matter still belonging to the initial stage of hydrogen atom. Here, let us mention that this development of hydrogen does not occur in a manner of a sketchy accumulation of atom nuclei within an atom by preserving their separate identities. The values accumulating in the atom under the governance of original influences make up the structure of a hydrogen atom, which characterizes its quality at that moment by fusing in complete harmony and equilibrium but without becoming united. All matter has magnetic fields. The magnetic field of such a developed atom is not simple as it is in the initial hydrogen nucleus. Because there are many particles in a hydrogen atom which is made up of compositions of hydrogen nuclei, and each particle has a magnetic field, the magnetic field of this developed atom is made up of synthesis of the magnetic fields of the parts which constitute it. We call this field magnetic field synthesis. These magnetic fields of matter are very important. For all their relations with each other and with beings are provided through these magnetic fields, and the secondary influences arriving at these fields, according to their intensity, power, and direction, can render, under the rules of the duality principle and value differentiation mechanism, myriad changes, metamorphoses, deformations, dispersions, and congregations in the structures of matter to which they, magnetic fields, are subject. Similarly, the utilizing of matter by beings, who are able to put these into various states, is done in this way. Beings in duty, utilizing the Earth's magnetic field which is encompassing and vast, naturally in that ratio, by sending miscellaneous influences to this field, generate large or small natural phenomena on Earth. Like this, influences coming from a being with far superior comprehension, who is influential on these magnetic fields, generate much larger results upon the matter belonging to them. Basically, motions that may influence states and situations of worlds, systems, suns in this way are only the deeds of very sublime plans. And of course, these are controlled in accordance with the necessities of the original principle. Wherever matter exists, it is imperative that there exists a magnetic field. After all, the knowledge we have previously given about the constitution of magnetic field makes it easy to understand this truth. So, as an atom has a magnetic field, so do all developmental stages of an atom, that is, of elements, of objects composed of these elements, of worlds, of systems, and also of nebulae, of cosmoses, of beings that have magnetic field syntheses, which are more or less encompassing, more or less complex in comparison with each other. And above all, the magnetic field of the unitary which consists of the whole universe is single. There is no magnetic field synthesis there. For, in the unitary, the existence of separate and distinctive beings or components is out of the question. So, what mankind calls perisprit is also nothing but these magnetic fields of matter. That is, magnetic fields of human bodies are what people accept as the meaning of perisprit. So, a spirit utilizes matter by influencing its magnetic fields through its being, which is a representative of itself in the universe, and is but an energy complex. And out of this matter, it establishes bodies which are appropriate for its application in the worlds that these belong to, and through these bodies, by influencing magnetic fields of other beings and the matter of that world, and by utilizing them, it establishes its evolution. We have said that just as complex magnetic field syntheses exist for a world, complex magnetic field syntheses also exist for solar systems and nebulae, which are much more complex than that. Beings do their duty by influencing these realms through the channels of these fields. For example, there exist very sublime beings in duty, comprising of a few solar systems, even a few nebulae, which they govern by influencing their magnetic fields. Matter mentioned so far has not yet entered into the stage of being. Here, it must be stated that those who have learned the knowledge given from the start should have understood now that terms like the animate and inanimate in the universe are but words and do not carry a thorough meaning. The order and arrangement of indirect relations of matter with spirits both in the initial stages and in the hydrogen stage make it impossible to render discernment such as life and non-life. For, in every matter of universe stages, various relations of spirits to matter in accordance with the character of that stage and evolutionary system always exist. And in the universe, there is no matter that is not dedicated to the evolution of any spirit. That is, there is no matter state which is not temporarily or continuously under service to spirits. This situation is especially obvious for all matter in the hydrogen stage. A matter considered out of this service is unnecessary and purposeless. And in the universe, there is no unnecessary process at all. In this case, it is unwarranted to sink into thoughts such as when matter is connected to spirit it is animate and when it is not it is inanimate, for every matter has a temporary or continuous connection to a spirit. However, even wishing to call beings animate by seeing that matter is continuously connected to a being is not right either. For, spirits also connect to the previous hydrogen atom in the substage of being until its state of being. Therefore, following the knowledge above, the notion of discerning matter as animate or inanimate is meaningless. Spirits, rendering applications in the initial hydrogen states which have not yet entered the state of being, prepare passively and mechanically in this matter. This matter is not under the governance of spirits that will render applications. They are only each constituted as grounds, allowing the adjustment of initial student spirits in the universe, with influences coming from the unitary in accordance with the necessities of sublime principles. So far, necessary knowledge has been given about the development of matter, and about spirits obeying these developments by a mechanical form of progress. Now, we may start giving knowledge about the transitions of this matter into separate beings, about the transitions of spirits to the automatic or semi-comprehending evolutionary stages in our cosmos. Constituted matter that has been turned into an initial hydrogen atom had been grasped by a spirit. That spirit is connected to that atom. However, as we have mentioned, it is not in the situation of governing it. Spirit cannot step out of the ordered and organized motions of matter that emerged with the original principle. It tries to adapt to them. In this spirit, there is yet no intuition, even no mechanical instincts at all. All the while, as the hydrogen atom does motions and developments in the direction determined by original influences, and oriented to the evolutionary purpose of the spirit which is connected to it, it services the evolution of spirit. As the result of this development, the hydrogen atom turns into hydrogen H as known by mankind. And successively, the elements known by chemistry emerge. This state is elevated to higher states and the motions of atoms become complicated. Regarding its values, its structure enriches. In its structure various groupings, gatherings, and systems occur. Its magnetic field synthesis enters into more complex, more complicated states. In this way, the hydrogen atom, by passing through many stages, transforms into the states of oxygen, phosphorus, copper, silver, barium, platinum, gold, radium, uranium, centurium. As the hydrogen atom develops in this way, the spirit which is connected to it and adapting to its motions also develops very slowly with a mechanical automatic tempo. As this evolution of the spirit accrues, preparations for some of its instinctual behaviors pertaining to various motion combinations, in other words, pertaining to relations within matter, are done as well. Eventually, the hydrogen atom starts to exuberate from the cadre of the highest elements known to mankind. And it enriches its structure with larger combinations, which have started to transmit high energies that mankind cannot detect or posit. Meanwhile, preparations of the spirit, which is both causing this development and whose evolutionary progress is in parallel to it, for its initial behavioral instincts pertaining to relations between matter combinations, advance. All of these always occur within the great harmony of original influences, which always target the evolution of spirits. That is, as we previously said, original influences that gather the atom from the primitive matter of the amorphous milieu by descending in the midst of matter, reflect the evolutionary necessities of spirits to the atom in the developing state. It provides for preparations of reaching of the spirit, in parallel with matter, to a higher stage. In this developmental stage of the hydrogen atom, there are no secondary influences arriving at the structure of the atom. Here, only original influences descend to it. The original influences are influences filtrated from the unitary and pertaining to matter and spirits. This situation continues up to the stages of being. Starting from its initial constitution, the hydrogen atom finally reaches such a stage that it starts to transmit energies that are superworld matter unknown to mankind, in states of very subtle and complicated matter combinations. When the atom reaches the developmental stage of its ability to transmit these high and complex energies, the spirit causing it to reach that level in the face of the original principle also reaches a stage of evolution, after a long cycle of application, at which it can have instinctual behaviors of relations and motions between matter. Thus, the high hydrogen atom at the uppermost boundaries of world matter starts to transmit such strong and complex energies that these can no longer belong to world matter. Nevertheless, these energies are also not in a gathered state but are disarrayed. However, there are immense differences between this desultory state and the desultory state of amorphous matter in the primitive milieu, which we previously mentioned. The former were the formless, simple, crude matter with primitive motions which were almost inert. These is, however, powerful and valued matter in states of surpassing value that is constituted by rich matter combinations, with very complex motions and complicated structures. We call the milieu in which they exist semisubtle milieu. This semisubtle milieu is a kind of nebulae constituted by high energies that form the echelon of a completely new, and much higher realm than both the amorphous milieu below the hydrogen atom, and the astronomic nebulae constituted by initial hydrogen atoms, and the constitution of such a semisubtle milieu that exists higher than the world expresses the slow shifting of the world, in other words, of the hydrogen cosmos up to a higher cosmos. So, these high and disarrayed energies constitute the most primitive and simplest atoms of this semi-subtle cosmos, that is, of the nebulae of superhydrogen cosmos. Thus, higher and disarrayed energies which have started to emanate from the initial atoms of this semi-subtle milieu, through their development, have now reached the ability and possibilities of gathering and entering into a state of being which can serve a spirit, until the end of the universe. Similarly, spirits that have evolved with them up to that stage, always with the help of the original influences, have also reached the capability of gathering these high but disarrayed energies and make a being out of them. When this state occurs, original influences, which also consist of the influences of a spirit that has reached the merit of building a body for itself out of these disarrayed energies, descend in the midst of these disarrayed and high energies. There, by gathering these energies around a perceptual point which we have previously explained, they make a gathering out of them. In the original influences there are also influences belonging to spirits evolved up to that stage. These influences are reflected and connected to the being, that is, to the energy ensemble by the original influence. In this way, that energy ensemble, which we call being, has been put in service to be a reflector to all behaviors of that spirit, and to send all responses of those behaviors back to it until the end of the universe, and has entered into a state of becoming a symbol, a vehicle of the spirit in universe. In this way, developing from the start of the initial hydrogen stage up to the moment of reaching the stage of being, the prime influences part of the original influences, pertaining to matter, leaves its place to secondary influences. And through these secondary influences arriving from those beings in duty within the vast organizations, or from the beings they utilize in various stages, as continuously supervised by the unitary, the being continues on its evolution until the end of universe. With the start of these secondary influences, tests, trials, experiences and observations of beings start as well. And beings are put into a completely new, faster evolutionary system. From that stage on, matter, like beings, will develop under the governance of spirits to which they obey and with the help of secondary influences, by subjecting and translating all states and situations of those spirits and by expressing them in the universe. A being that comes into existence in this way expresses all behaviors pertaining to the evolution of the spirit to which it is in service, to such perfection that it can then be looked at as the spirit itself in the universe. Because of this, seeing that its active state that carries expressions of spirit relative to the states of other matter which is below it and inert, and almost amorphous, the adjective of animated has been attributed to this being, and as previously mentioned, this is but a relative expression. 4. Here the being that is called animated is actually merely the developed higher states of the initial hydrogen atom matter which appeared inert. The only thing is that its possibilities have sufficiently developed in order to express a spirit in universe, and because of this, it has been assigned to the service of a certain spirit. In short, the initial nucleus, the core state of the hydrogen atom, which is not yet known by mankind, constitutes our hydrogen cosmos, that is, the principal matter of solar systems, nebulae and all astronomical bodies which we can observe by astronomical means. Eventually, it spontaneously starts to emanate some energies. It should be remembered that matter cannot spontaneously emanate any energies. All of these are subject to the influences coming from original sources. And here, let us say once again that when we say hydrogen atom, we never mean the hydrogen H atom known by chemistry. As we have said, this hydrogen H atom is in a very advanced stage of development in comparison with the atom we talk about, and is a completely different thing from it. Nevertheless, because mankind named the first atom hydrogen, we have naturally named the first atom of our cosmos as hydrogen. However, to repeat, this is actually not the hydrogen atom. So, out of these high energies of the hydrogen atom, which do not have any apparent manifestation in the world, the semisubtle melia at one stage higher than the hydrogen cosmos, comes forth. These high states and forms of hydrogen continuing its development in that melia become the evolutionary materials for spirits, which have attained the merit for gathering these high energies, by stepping up their application level in matter with the more superior energies they transmit. Spirits, in the way we have said above, build for themselves beings apiece out of these energies to be in service to them until the end of the universe.